this video, we're going to allocate joint product costs using our physical quantities method, relative market values at the split-off point, as well as the net realizable value if processed further. The following questions relate to the Kyle Company, which manufactures products Ka, Kb, and Kc from a joint production process. The joint product costs were $126,000 with the additional following information. We're told that we produced a certain number of physical units of product Ka, Kb, and Kc. We're given the relative sales value at the split-off point for our three products, as well as the sales value and additional cost if we process the products further. We're going to begin by allocating $126,000 in costs using our physical units method. Again, we're given the number of physical units for each product that we're producing. We're producing 56,000 units of Ka, 40,000 of Kb, and 16,000 of Kc for a total of 120,000 units. Our percentage of allocation then, 56,000 divided by 112, gives us 50% of our costs will be allocated to product Ka. 40,000 divided by the 112 gives us 35.7% of the cost to be allocated to Kb. And finally, 14.3% of our cost to be allocated to product Kc. Again, be sure you've added up to 100% of your costs. Our cost allocations then for product Ka, it will be the $126,000 times 50% or $63,000. For product Kb, it's 35.7% times 126,000 for $45,000 in cost. And finally, for Kc, we will allocate $18,000 in cost, which is the 126,000 times 14.3%. Be sure we've allocated the entire $126,000 in cost. Let's now allocate the cost using the net realizable value at the split-off point. Recall, your book refers to this as the net realizable value at the split-off point, but more frequently it's just simply referred to as the relative sales value or market value at the split-off point. Let's begin by picking up the information that's given. We're told that the relative sales value at split-off point for product Ka is $160,000. We can sell product Kb for $140,000, and we can sell product Kc for $100,000, for a total of $400,000. The $160,000 divided by 400 means that 40% of our joint product costs will be allocated to product Ka. The $140,000 divided by 400 means 35% of our joint product cost will be allocated to product Kc. And finally, 25% of our joint product cost will be allocated to product Kc. Again, be sure our column foots to 100%. The cost allocations then. Product Ka, 40% of the $126,000 or $50,400 will be allocated to product Ka. 35% of the $126,000 or $44,100 will be allocated to product Kb. Then finally, Kc will be allocated $31,500 in cost, and we have indeed allocated the full joint production cost. Finally, we're going to allocate cost based on net realizable value with further processing. We're going to need to first calculate that net realizable value. We have our final sales values, and we have our additional costs. Our net realizable value then will be the final sales value for product Ka of $220,000 minus the $36,000 in additional processing costs. So our net realizable value with additional processing will be $184,000 for product Ka. For product Kb, the net realizable value is $180,000 minus $28,000 in additional processing cost, or $152,000. And for product Kc, it's $140,000, which is the final selling price of $160,000 minus the $20,000 in additional processing cost. If we process these goods further, we will net $476,000. On a percentage basis, Ka represents 38.7% of that total net realizable value, which is the 184 divided by 476. Product Kb represents 31.9% of that final net realizable value, and product C, the 140 divided by 476, represents 29.4% of our final net realizable value. Our cost allocations then, 38.7% times 126,000 gives us $48,706. Product KB will be allocated $40,235 in cost, and product C $37,059 in product cost. Again, sum or column to be sure it equals our total product costs. Let's take a look a second at this question of should we process goods further. In this case, the additional market value compared to the sales value at split-off point exceeds the additional processing cost for each product. For instance, product KA, we will net an additional $60,000 in sales proceeds if we spend $36,000. Of course we should do it. For product B, we net an additional $40,000 in sales proceeds, and it will only cost us $28,000. Of course we should do it. And the same is true for product C, where we net an additional $60,000 in revenues for incurring an additional $20,000 in costs. What if product KB required an additional $50,000 in processing costs? Well, would we want to process it further? We would net an additional $40,000 to gain, at a cost of $50,000? No, would be the answer here. We would not process product B further.